Hello? Can anyone hear me? Yes? Okay, now I just need to know if I can hear other people.
would like to unmute me. Okay. You can't, well, I'm on the phone to you.
So can you hear me now?
Yeah, thank you, thank you,
Okay,
thank you.
thanks.
Well, good evening, everyone. Good to see everyone. And the regular meeting for the Washington County Quorum Court is now called into order. Good to see everyone. We're going to go ahead and ask J.P. Ecke, will you lead us in prayer and pledge?
I'd be honored, Judge. Thank you. Will you bow your heads and join me in prayer, please? Gracious Heavenly Father, creator of heaven and earth, creator of governments and creator of life, we come before you in the name of your Son, our Lord and Savior, Jesus. We ask your blessing. We ask for your peace and your grace to go before us. And we thank you that you have given us wisdom and insight to do that which is right. We bless your holy name. Amen.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance
To the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, J.P. Ecke. Okay, let's get rolling. Today we will have Miss Patty go ahead and roll.
Nope.
Oh, we did. Miss Patty, will you do the roll call, see if we have an attendance?
Susan Cunningham.
Here.
Patrick Deakins.
Here.
Sam Duncan.
Here.
Lisa Ecke. Mute her. Lisa Ecke is here.
I'm here.
Ann Harbison. I see she's here. Suki Hires.
Here.
Andrea Jenkins. Lance Johnson.
Here.
Willie Leming. He's here. Eva Madison.
Here.
Sue Madison.
Here.
Butch Pond.
Here.
Derek Thomas.
Here.
Shawndra Washington.
She just came back.
Judith Yanez.
Here.
Judge, we have a quorum.
Excellent. Thank you, Miss Patty. We are now moved to item 3, the adoption of the agenda. Are there any changes to the agenda?
Sue Madison.
JP Sue Madison?
Or unmute. JP Sue Madison, you'll need to unmute.
Okay, start over.
Oh.
I move adoption of the agenda with the addition of a consent agenda after the county judge's report with items 10 through 14 that were heard in finance to be put on a consent agenda.
Okay, consent agenda to follow item 7. So we're talking, that'll be number 8. And items 10, 11, 12, 13, 14.
That's all.
That's good, as a consent agenda items. Is there any other changes?
JP Deacons.
JP Deacons?
Thank you, Judge. I'd like to add to the agenda item number 20-0-060. Brett emailed that out to us earlier today. There was some confusion about this with a possible appeal of this CUP, but this CUP needs to move forward.
Okay. So item 20-0-060 would be item number 16. Any other changes?
JP Ecke has her hand up.
JP Ecke?
And Willie.
JP Ecke?
Mute. JP Ecke, you'll need to unmute.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Lester. My question, point of question or information on JP Deakins' proposal amendment to the agenda, is that going to be on an emergency clause or is it going to go all 3 readings? I'm not sure how he was going to expedite the CUP. Just point of information or inquiry. Thank you.
It will have to be read 3 times.
It'll be read 3 times. JP Leming.
Brian, I was wanting to ask about the Prairie Grove deal. Do we need to add that now or later?
Yes, sir, we need to add it now.
Okay,
That's,
that was, could you read that or how do I?
yeah, that's it's item 20-0-059. That would be
Read
added.
that again, 20-20-0.
20-0-059.
59. Okay,
All right,
I'd
so
like-
we,
I'd like to
so we
add that.
have, okay. Thank you, JP Leming. So we have a consent agenda item, which would be number 8, which would include items 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. And then we have added to the agenda item number 16, which would be JP Deakins 20-0060, and then JP Leming item 20-059, which would be item number 17. Are there any other changes to the agenda? Having none, do I have a motion to approve the agenda as amended?
Motion to approve as amended.
All right, have a motion. Do I have a second?
A second.
Like a second, JP Pine. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? All right, the agenda has passed.
Mr. Judge,
JP Madison?
I move that resolutions and ordinances be read by title only.
Okay, let me ask that. So preliminary motions, we have JP Madison asking that we read resolutions and ordinances by title only. Is there a second?
Second.
And second by JP Harbison. All in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? And that motion passes. Thank you, JP Madison and JP Harbison. Item 5, citizens' comment. At this time, we'll have citizen comments. Again, we allot 15 minutes for comments from our citizens to share with us, the county. And at that point, we ask when you come, please state your name and where you're from. And we will go ahead and begin. Citizen comments.
Oh, hold on just a second. Okay, we have Mac Mayfield.
All right, Mr. Mac Mayfield.
I'm sorry, I'm gonna have to promote him to a panelist for him to talk.
Mr. Mayfield?
Can you hear me now?
Yes, go ahead and tell us who you are and where you're from.
Yep. Thank you very much. Mac Mayfield, 980 Rocky Lane, Fayetteville, 72704. Thank you, Judge Wood and members of the court. My comment tonight is regarding the Homeland Security Grant Program funds. It's come to light that there is $1.4 million in the bank that was granted to the county from the Department of Homeland Security. This money is slated for purchase of equipment for law enforcement agencies. In the past, we've bought things like infrared imaging equipment, bomb disposal robots, and heavy-duty vehicles with these grants. A request was made to repurpose these funds from buying weapons and use them for COVID-19 relief efforts. Not an unreasonable request because fighting the pandemic seems to be within the original guidelines of Homeland Security's grant program and their parameters. Those guidelines make allowances to address catastrophe above and beyond terrorism, and surely COVID is a catastrophe. Unfortunately, the request was denied. So my question is, will the county take no for an answer? Should the issue be pressed? Should we be talking to Homeland Security and the state? Because I think we need to be gathering all possible resources to combat the virus and to take care of the people who have been absolutely devastated over the past 5 months. Right now, there doesn't appear to be much of a national plan, and the state plan has not necessarily treated us well. The state has given the short end of the stick to Washington County with regard to testing. Our rate is half of that of Benton County's, while our populations are comparable. And testing rates are declining statewide. With school starting and the university students returning, we may be at a point of maximum threat. What can we do to respond and to be ready to avoid and forestall a large outbreak? Despite assertions to the contrary, the disease is not going away unless we commit a lot of time, energy, and resources to make that happen. It doesn't appear we're getting a lot of help from the state or the feds in some regards. What are we going to do? In some respects, it appears we're better prepared to fight the Taliban than we are to fight the virus. My comment and my request is that we should reprioritize these funds and take the bull by the horns. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Mayfield. Citizen comments. Citizen comments.
We have Beth Coger, Judge.
Ms. Coger, are you on?
I'm here, Judge. Can you hear me?
I can. Go ahead, tell us again who you are and where you're from.
Elizabeth Coger, 3661 Embry Drive, Fayetteville, 72764. I'm going to have a little more to say about what Mr. Mayfield just brought up. I have the letter from A.J. Gray, of the director of the Arkansas Department of Emergency Management, and his determination that COVID-19 relief does not meet the terrorism preparedness requirements of the Homeland Security Grant for 19. So I'm well aware of his position, but I think it still needs further exploration. That letter doesn't even mention the fiscal year 2019 Homeland Security grants and the remaining $910,000. The county was notified of those funds being awarded on November 26, 2019. And as of August the 3rd, the county had only spent $20,000. So there doesn't appear to be an urgent need to use those funds otherwise. The grant notice of funding refers to saving lives and meeting basic human needs in the aftermath of a catastrophic incident. I believe we are on stronger ground with the 19 funds than we were for the 18 funds because of COVID. And Washington County submitted an exercise overview dated March 13th to ADEM, listing the threat or hazard as the COVID-19 pandemic. It's too important to just take no from one person at the state level as an answer. When those guidelines were written, no one could have envisioned anything like what is happening now in our county. So why can't we go all the way to DHS in Washington, D.C. and really push if that's what it will take? I urge Judge Wood, emergency management, and all involved to aggressively pursue spending at least a good part of that $910,000 on housing and food assistance for our community. We might start a movement here, and if we're granted permission, then other states and jurisdictions might join in, but Washington County would be the first. Finally, the 2020 grants will be announced any day now, and all of Arkansas was awarded $4.2 million for 2020. And if prior years are any indication, somewhere around $900,000 of that will be coming in Washington County. So thank you, everyone, but please, this is just too important to not follow through all the way to the top. Thank you.
Thank you, Beth Koger. Citizen comments. Citizen comments.
I don't see any more hands up.
Seeing no more citizen comments, then we'll move on to item 6, which would be approval of the minutes. JP Madison, Sue Madison.
Thank you, Mr. Judge. I read the minutes. I move approval.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve the minutes. All in favor?
Aye.
All right. Minutes have been accepted. Judge's report, you should have your disposal. You should have your disposal report already in your packet. This year marks the centennial anniversary of the passage of the 19th Amendment and guaranteeing and protecting the rights of women to vote. Washington County has been celebrating virtually all month long in the month of August. I want to encourage everyone in the county as well as our court to go to our county Facebook page to see a number of the articles, videos that we posted, as well as recordings from the national suffrage movement, as well as state and local leaders. The National Park Service has said that the women's rights movement was an offspring to abolition. Many people who actively started back then were supporting both. Several participants, both in the first women's rights movement and the convention there in Seneca Falls, had already been laboring to work against slavery and be a part of the anti-slavery movement. Both movements promoted the expansion, obviously, of the American promise of liberty and equality to both African Americans and women. I want to thank those who've already shared reflections or thoughts on the 100-year anniversary. We sent an email inviting all our elected women to share a 30-second up to a minute video reflecting on what women's suffrage means and what it means to them. And if you're doing so and still plan to do so, we just ask that you would get that in to us by August 28th. If you need help, let us know, and we'll work with IT to help you get that done. As a way to help Washington County citizens engage in this, we've put a history package together. We'll have that online next week where you can go and download that, share with your students or family. But it has all kinds of information collected from all many sources: the Library of Congress, the National Park Services, the Department of Arkansas Heritage here in the state of Arkansas, as well as our county archives. A big salute to both Ms. Julie and Ms. Patty, who put a lot of this work together. Even I had my wife participate and help pull some of this and work together on it. And it's really been a great project and engaging a lot of folks from around, again, the state, the county, as well as pulling documents from across the nation. Finally, I want to share that the animal shelter has also jumped in, and the mascot for the women's suffrage movement was the cat. And so they have a special on adopting cats. So if you thought about it, been thinking about, this may be an opportunity for you to go to the animal shelter and adopt a cat in support of the women's suffrage movement here. Washington County's COVID case, let me move to that quickly. We're down to 198 active cases, which is a significant improvement. We were running, I think Mayfield had mentioned the high rates, and we were running almost 22 and 24% We're now down to 12%. So that has been a great improvement. Obviously, we again had CDC here for about 3 weeks. Last week, 2 weeks ago, we had their bosses here from the Federal Department of Health and Human Services to do some follow-up to the CDC's visit. They wanted to meet with me and talk about what has been happening in Washington County and how can they further support and help. We had them connect, and they visit with a number of other leaders, probably over 100 leaders in the area for the 3 or 4 days, providing additional support and really, I think, a great takeaway for them to see how this region up here, in particular, been in Washington County, have been working together all along, and how it has been really helping and moving those numbers and driving those numbers down. So we got to be vigilant, and we have to stay true to what is going to help thwart and get rid of this virus piece. Finally, I want to say the National Center for State Courts, you guys appropriated dollars to go ahead for us to enter a contract with them to do a study on our jail and court systems. They have completed that. The final report was sent to you today. It should have been posted. It should be out there now on the website. We will have the National Center for the State Courts to do a presentation on their study at the next jails and law enforcement courts meeting to kind of walk through that in September. Again, with that, thanks to our county employees, our county electeds for engaging and working with them. And then obviously the work that they've been doing through the past 6 months. It's been a tremendous work, a lot of pressure, a lot of stress. But I want to thank our county employees, our county elected officials for the due diligence and the continued service to each other as well as our citizens in the county. All our best to our students, teachers, and administrators as we go back to school. And finally, again, let's stay strong, Washington County. With that, we'll go ahead to the consent agenda items, which was items 10, 11, 12, 13, and 14. Council, would you go ahead and read those by title only?
Item 10 is an ordinance creating one position of deputy coroner in the coroner budget and appropriating the amount of $48,499 from the unappropriated reserves to the coroner budget for 2020. Item 11 is an ordinance appropriating $28,856.10 from the Communication Facility Equipment Fund to the Communication Facility Equipment budget for 2020. Item 12 is an ordinance recognizing and appropriating revenue in the amount of $852,365.70 in the road department budget for 2020. Item 13 is an ordinance recognizing revenue in the amount of $69,350 in the Rural Community Grant Fund for 2020 and appropriating said amount to the road department budget for 2020. And finally, item 14 is an ordinance anticipating additional revenue in the amount of $13,699 in the Law Enforcement Grant Fund and appropriating $13,699 from the Law Enforcement Grant Fund to the JAG grant budget for 2020.
JP Harbison.
She'll need to unmute. JP Harbison, you'll need to hit unmute. JP Harbison, we can't hear you. You're still muted. Can you click? You should have a prompt to unmute. There you go.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay. I move that we pass these ordinances that you just read that are on the consent agenda.
We have a motion to approve the consent agenda items.
Second.
We have a second by JP Ecke. Do we need to go ahead and, Ms. Patty? This is public.
Any public comment?
Public comments? Any public comments? All right, with that, Ms. Patty, will you go ahead and take the roll?
Suki Hires,
Yes.
Sue Madison,
Yes.
Willie Leming,
No.
Ann Harbison,
Yes.
Butch Pond,
Yes.
Lance Johnson,
Yes.
Susan Cunningham, Susan Cunningham,
Yes.
Derek Thomas,
Yes.
Judith Yanez,
Yes.
Patrick Deakins,
Yes.
Lisa Ecke,
Yes.
Sam Duncan,
Yes.
Shawndra Washington, Eva Madison,
Debating a there you go.
did you say yes? Yes. And Andrea Jenkins. Judge, this ordinance passes.
All right, the ordinance passed. Thank you, Ms. Patty. All right, so now we're on to item, that was 8. So yes, item 9 now will be the resolution, now diagnostics. Is that J.P. Yanez? Counsel, will you read that one by title only?
This is a resolution of the Quorum Court of Washington County, Arkansas, certifying a local county government endorsement of Now Diagnostics Incorporated to participate in the Consolidated Incentive Tax Back Act of 2003.
Thank you, County Attorney Lester. So if you have not gone out to visit Now Diagnostics, I would encourage you. I'm honored that a manufacturing company that's doing rapid diagnostic testing in our area, including COVID-19, is in Springdale, Arkansas. So I have asked Dwayne Portman from Now Diagnostics to come in and speak to us of why they're applying, what their expansion looks like, and what they do at the manufacturing plant. So Dwayne, are you here?
I am here, yes, thank you.
Good evening, Dwayne. Mr. Foreman, sir, how are you?
I'm doing great. Thank you very much. I am honored to address the court tonight on behalf of Now Diagnostics.
Go ahead.
Yeah, briefly, Now Diagnostics' purpose is to empower patients and caregivers with the knowledge necessary to make intelligent healthcare choices. We develop and manufacture simple, accurate, and easy to administer diagnostic tests that yield results in minutes. We're in the midst of an expansion to support our growing business related to our pregnancy test, our COVID-19 antibody test, and other tests that are in development, including a COVID-19 antigen test that can detect an active infection. The expansion involves an investment of over $5 million in manufacturing equipment and facility updates, and the creation of 70+ jobs. The equipment includes specialized equipment unique to the type of tests that we produce, as well as packaging equipment similar to other industries. We're increasing our production capacity over 10-fold with this investment. This increase can only come through our investment in jobs in this equipment, and we're proud to make this investment in Washington County. And if you have any other questions about us, I'd be glad to address those.
Mr. Scott, do you have any comments you want to share as well coming out of the chamber?
Just we're as Justice Yanez explained, we're thrilled that Now Diagnostics is located in Springdale. They've been doing great things for several years and are a great company to have here. And we're really excited about the future of this company and the products that they're going to be manufacturing that is going to be beneficial to us all. So again, they have our full support. It's a great company and great people.
Well, thank you very much. I definitely plan on getting out there and tour that one. J.P. Yanez, any other comments?
I think JP Ecke has a question.
J.P. Ecke?
Thank you, Justice Yanez. Thank you, Judge. I do have a question. Exactly where are you located? Could you give us your physical address?
Yes, we're at 1200 Stewart Place, which is right off of Old Missouri Road in Springdale, across from the Springdale Airport.
Across the street or next to?
Across the street, across Old Missouri Road from the Springdale Airport.
Okay. And you're just going to be manufacturing and distribution, or are you going to retail also on site?
So it's just manufacturing and distribution from here, yes.
That's fantastic. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
And Judge Woods, JP Washington has a question on the chat. Dwayne, what's the preferred method for scheduling a tour?
The preferred method would be to contact either myself or our office administration leader, who is Allison Sahiki, and I can provide that connection information for you via email or via phone, and we'd be glad to schedule a tour.
If you would share that with us, we'll get that out to all the JP so they will have that.
That'd be great. Can I send it to you, JP, Yanez?
Yes, that would be perfect.
I will do that.
So, and I might add, Judge, one of my concerns always is the diversity of hiring. And when we tour and I thank Beth Koga for touring with me, so we could have two eyes. The diversity in the workplace was amazing. So I thank you, Mr. Portman, for doing that diligence of hiring diverse Washington County constituents. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. We're honored to do so.
So.
Is there a motion to pass the resolution? JP Yanez?
Yes, I'll go ahead and move to go ahead and pass the resolution.
Is that a second by JP Leming?
Second.
Any other discussion? All right, let's go to public comments. Any public comments? All right, with that, Ms. Patty, you take the roll.
Suki Hires,
Yes.
Sue Madison,
Yes.
Willie Leming,
Yes.
Ann Harbison,
Yes.
Butch Pond,
Yes.
Lance Johnson,
Yes.
Susan Cunningham,
Yes.
Derek Thomas,
Yes.
Judith Yanez,
Yes.
Patrick Deakins,
Yes.
Lisa Ecke, yes. Sam Duncan,
Yes.
Shawndra Washington, yes. Eva Madison, Andrea Jenkins.
Yes.
Judge, this passes.
All right, that resolution passes. Thank you, Mr. Portman and Mr. Edmondson, appreciate it. Item 10, which would be the CUP JP Deakins. Counsel, will you go ahead and read that one by title only?
An ordinance ratifying a conditional use permit recommended for approval by the Planning and Zoning Board for Oriana's Auto Sales.
Thank you, Judge. This is an auto sales establishment that wants to go in. This location is, if you're familiar, if you go out east of Springdale, right before you reach the Sonora stoplight, there's a Dollar General there on the north side of the road. This property is just to the west of that. So there was no, it's pretty commercial right now. There was no opposition to it. I would like to move to suspend the rules and take this to the second reading.
All right, we have a motion to suspend the rules and me move to a second. Is there move to a second reading? Is there a second?
Second the motion.
Is that JP Pond? All
Yes.
right. We have a motion and a second to move to second reading. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? All right. Council, we read it for the second time.
An ordinance ratifying a conditional use permit recommended for approval by the Planning and Zoning Board for Oriana's Auto Sales.
Judge Wood, I'd like to suspend the rules and move it to the third and final reading.
Second.
There's a motion and a second to move to the third and final reading. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? All right, Counselor.
An ordinance ratifying a conditional use permit recommended for approval by the Planning and Zoning Board for Oriana's Auto Sales.
All right, any other comments, discussion? All right, let's go to public comment.
I had a motion to pass.
Oh, that's right.
I make a motion to pass this item.
Second.
We got a motion by JP Deakins, a second by JP Leming. Any other discussion? Any other discussion? Let's go to public comments. Any JP Washington?
JP Washington, you should get a prompt to unmute. JP Washington, we're not getting any sound from you, even though you're unmuted. You might try going down to the bottom left where the little telephone or speaker is and clicking the little button, the up button, and it may ask you which microphone to use, and you may try changing your mic to whatever computer you are to make sure it's on.
How about now?
There you go.
Okay, sorry about that. So yeah, I just had one question as I was reading through this. It did say that this particular auto sales company does also keep cars that they sell for scrap metal. And I don't remember the percentage, but I just had a question about that. Them keeping cars that are inoperable to sell at a later date for scrap metal, and would that how would that affect the aesthetics of the community in that area?
Yeah, if I could comment on that, Judge?
Yep.
I drive by this every day on my commute to work. They already have some automobiles, like Justice Washington said. The planning board is recommending a fence be put up. That will be separate from the actual sales. So the sales lot will be there right off the highway. It'll be, of course, highly visible right there. Their current operation with the changes and everything should not be an aesthetic, detrimental to the aesthetics, in my opinion. But there you go.
Ms. Cedar, did you have anything else you want to add?
No, sir, I did not.
Okay. Was there any other question, any other discussion? All right, let's go to public comments. Public comments. All right, without any, let's go ahead, Ms. Patty, and do the roll.
Suki Hires,
Yes.
Eva Madison,
Yes.
Willie Leming, Willie Leming, yes. Ann Harbison,
Yes.
Butch Pond,
Yes.
Lance Johnson,
Yes.
Susan Cunningham,
Yes.
Derek Thomas,
Yes.
Judith Yanez,
Yes.
Patrick Deakins,
Yes.
Lisa Ecke, Lisa Ecke,
Yes.
Sam Duncan,
Yes.
Shawndra Washington,
Yes.
Eva Madison,
Yes.
Andrea Jenkins.
Yes.
Judge, this ordinance passed.
Okay, that ordinance passes. And we will go on to item, let me see.
I think it's 11, but
Oh.
15.
Item 15 on your packet, which would be, item 15-1. Counsel, will you read that by title only? And then JP Deakins, that'll be you.
An ordinance amending ordinance 2019-86 by reducing the total amount of $144,057 in jail operations and maintenance budget for 2020 and returning those funds to unappropriated reserves in the jail operations and maintenance fund.
JP
Thank you,
Deakins.
Councilor Lester. This is an ordinance that I wanted to bring. If you remember last year during the budget process, we approved new jailers for the detention center. And, you know, we know that COVID has impacted that population quite a bit, and these positions are now not being used currently. I would like to see this go back into the unappropriated reserves for the jail budget. So they will either have that to offset money that might need to come from general fund this year, or it can roll forward and they can help their operations next year. I believe it's very important right now in the short term with COVID-19 still being a major issue in this county that we keep ourselves flexible with funding out of the general fund. I know that a lot of elected officials have made a lot of sacrifices, and I really appreciate that. I want to really applaud them and thank them for their efforts. And I think this is just another effort that we can do. And then also in the long term, I want everybody to understand, you know, it comes with the backdrop of our NCSC study coming out today, that there's going to be a lot of things that we're going to have to tackle as a quorum court and try to fund and pivot and really change the way we think about things. And so in the long term, you know, I hope we don't need these positions back ever again, because I want to do things. I don't want the jail to go back the way it was pre-COVID. And I want to make that promise to my fellow justices and to the public that that's not my intent. I wouldn't bring this ordinance and try to get these funds back if I thought it was just going to be a short-term money pinch, you know, type situation. I want to reallocate these dollars to other things that we might need to do, implementing that study. I do want to make a clarifying point. This ordinance removes the funding for these positions. It does not eliminate the positions. So, you know, I know what was one of Sheriff Hilder's major concerns was if the population comes back up, you know, it would be very difficult for him from a timing standpoint to have to come back to the quorum court and go through JSAP and personnel and all that to get all the proper approvals that he will need. In this particular instance, if it came up and we needed to do this quite quickly, I think we could appropriate the money back into those positions in a reasonable time. So I want to alleviate everybody that concern too. But it's just my position that this needs to be done. This is one of many steps we're going to take to implement our both preparation for COVID, but also to implement our NCSC study. So I would like to move to pass this ordinance.
We have a motion to pass the ordinance. I see a second, JP Duncan. Any discussion? JP Madison, JP Jenkins after, no, Sue Madison.
Thank you, Mr. Judge. I'm just curious if this ordinance has been to a committee.
Yes, it went to the Finance and Budget Committee.
Thank you.
Any other discussion?
JP Eva Madison.
JP Eva Madison.
Sorry.
Judge, I'm going to vote against this tonight. I realize it may pass, but I think we have to be mindful of the fact that the sheriff has not filled these positions. He has been very responsible in not filling the positions while the population at the jail has been low. But having served on this court for almost 10 years, I know how hard it is to get funding like this. And I think that we need to respect the job he has done and at least leave the option there for him, because the way we're doing it, he's going to have to come back and start all over. I mean, we all know that asking for money is starting all over. And so I think we need to give him the flexibility. He's done a good job during the pandemic, but we don't know what the future holds, and we don't know how quickly we'll be able to address things. And I think he needs the flexibility, and we should respect his position. Thank you, Judge.
Thank you, JP Madison. Was there another hand? JP Ecke?
I guess I'm sitting in Eva Madison's chair this time, not being able to be unmuted, but listening to Justice Deakins and respecting the avenue in which he's going through, and I admire him coming up with solutions and ideas for the budget and budgetary needs and looking at this study. I haven't had a chance to go through the study thoroughly to fully understand the impact it's going to have on our jail and law enforcement. I support Justice Deakins, but at the same time, I'm looking at the same argument that Justice Madison is making. And I agree with Justice Madison because I know how hard it is to get things funded. And I hear in the back of my mind, you must be prepared. And before you go to war, you make sure that your troops are trained. You don't train them as you're going to war. Those are my thoughts. I support jail and law enforcement. I am not the elected official elected to make those decisions, but I do value what Justice Deakins is trying to do. Thank you.
Thank you, JP Ecke. Any other comments or discussion? JP Pond, then we'll go to JP Deakins.
Thank you, Judge Wood. I too appreciate what Justice Deacon is trying to do here, but I also have concerns that JP Madison and JP Ecke have, and it's not simply a personnel safety issue. We have to be more responsible for the health, safety, and welfare of the detainees who are they're in that facility, and they're not in there by choice or by their choice. They're in there to protect they're there because one way or another we have concerns about law-abiding citizens of the county. And I think we need to leave that. The sheriff has used a lot of care, a lot of discretion. It's not just jumped out and hired these individuals. And I will say would not until the time comes that the need is there. Well, we don't need to do anything to sacrifice safety of employees at the facility or the detainees. I'd like to say, well, I'm going to say, I have to respectfully vote no on this. We need to leave that. We need to leave those funds there to be used at the sheriff's discretion, and I have an awful lot of trust in Sheriff Helder. Thank you.
Thank you, JP Pond. JP Deakins, and then JP Jenkins.
I just want to address a couple points. First, I think anytime we start getting into these funding issues, we always stray off into the fact that, you know, I don't respect the elected official or this person's not doing a good job. And that has nothing to do with this ordinance whatsoever. Of course, I know we've got one of the finest sheriffs in the nation, you know, much less anywhere else. So here's the reason why this ordinance is needed. Until those funds are pulled away from the discretion of spending, we can't plan on having those funds for any type of other COVID relief or plan to budget those in any other way for next year. It's essentially, if those funds are appropriated, they're locked up. And that's what I'm trying to do, is I'm trying to take the county as a whole into perspective here and understand that there may be other needs in other areas that we need those funds for to immediately address a concern. So, you know, this is by no means, this is teamwork. You know, this is us working together as a county and making sure that we can address the needs as a county. This has, once again, nothing to do with Sheriff Helder, and I push back against anyone who wants to take that argument down that path. This has absolutely nothing to do with his performance, or more importantly, the performance of his detention officers. These are funds that are not being used, that could very well be used in other places as we ride this pandemic out. So I appreciate it. Thank you, thank you, Judge Wood.
Thank you, JP Deakins. JP Jenkins.
Thank you, Judge Wood. Well, JP Deakins really eloquently said what I was going to comment on almost exactly. But I just want to remind the court that Sheriff Helder did come before us during our committee meeting and said that he would support either way, that he understood. So I don't feel like this is an act against Sheriff Helder in any way. I agree with what JP Deakins said. We need to be looking at our future and what could possibly come with additional resource needs due to COVID. Thank you, Judge.
Any other discussion? JP Sue Madison.
Thank you, Mr. Judge. Having listened to both sides here and missed the committee meeting, I have to say this seems a little premature at best. I don't know why this would even be considered right now. We're a long way before we're out of this pandemic. Many things could happen. The sheriff has been very, very cautious down at the jail and has so far not had any great outbreaks down there. But we don't know what might happen and what he might need. And I don't see any reason, any compelling reason for us to be messing with his money right now. There's nothing wrong with letting it sit there. And I'm happy with just leaving things where they are. Thank you.
Thank you, JP Madison. JP Ecke.
Thank you, Mr. Judge. One final thought. If we as a court can continue to build good bridges across this county, I would encourage us to build good bridges with other elected officials, and voting in support of Justice Deakins, and at the same time supporting Sheriff Helder when the time comes and he asks for the positions, that we say yes and support him. It is a way of safeguarding those positions if our attitude is one built by trust. So I will be supporting Justice Deakins. Thank you.
Thank you, JP Ecke. JP Harbison, and then JP Washington.
I'm with JP Sue Madison. I think this is very premature. It's something that needs to be addressed during the budget process. It needs to be addressed at when we go through our evaluations and what we can do to keep the jail population down. I'm 100% behind JP Deakins and keeping the population down and developing other programs. But I think this is very premature for us to vote and remove money at this time. Thank you.
Thank you, JP Harbison. JP Washington.
Thank you. I just had a couple of questions. So what happens? Well, first of all, I would just like to say that I totally agree with Justice Sue Madison. What happens if something happens within the next few months of the year? Because we don't really know, and the census is greatly increased, and we do need those positions. I guess my concern is that we can say that we want to support the sheriff when he comes back, but if that happens next year, what happens if there are changes on the court? What happens if there are new justices in place? Like, we cannot guarantee that just because the sheriff comes back and asks for positions that we're actually going to do that. So I just don't understand. I mean, I understand agreeing to do that, but in reality, what happens if there are changes? What happens if the new justices don't agree to do that? So I think that it's very presumptive for us to reappropriate this money. And the second question that I had is that there's been a lot of talk about using some of these funds for COVID relief. Are there any other sources in the county that we can use for COVID relief funds? And if there are, then why are we not exploring those first before we agree to return these funds to unappropriated reserves? So those are just a couple of questions that I had.
Thank you, JP Washington. Any other discussion? JP Pond.
Just one more word of caution from experience on the court and positions changing hands from one 2-year period to the next. It's a whole lot easier to take that money back out of there and use it for something else we might need than it is to come up with the money to put back in there. And I just, I hate to see that go. I don't believe it'll come back, even if we do need it. I just don't want to see that happen. I'm pro law enforcement. I'm pro law and order, and I just don't believe it'll come back if you take it out. Thank you.
JP Johnson.
Yes, thank you, Judge. I want to remind everybody what the sheriff said at the committee meeting and what Justice Jenkins has already said. He had no argument whatsoever for leaving the money in the budget. If we leave the money in the budget, it's not available to this court. If we pass this ordinance, the money's available for whatever this court decides it's needed for. Thank you.
Thank you, JP Johnson. JP Harbison.
There I am. Okay, let remind everybody that the jail is supported by the quarter-cent sales tax. If that money cannot come out and be used for anything else. Now, if they take that money from general fund, yes, it can come out, but it doesn't come out until all of the resources from the quarter-cent sales tax has been used. So this, right now, no money from the general fund has been put into the jail fund. Last year, we only put $50,000 from general fund into the jail fund. So this is money that's really not ours unless they don't have money and have to ask us for money to support the jail. Thank you.
JP Eva Madison.
I was just going to say that I think that Sheriff Helder might have been being a good sport when he came before us, because there was some email traffic where I think he was not crazy about the idea of it. I think he respects the fact that we're the legislative body and we control the purse strings. And if that's what we were going to do, he wasn't going to be ugly about it. But at the end of the day, I think we all know that an elected official would rather have the money available to use if they needed it than to have to come to us and ask for it. So I think I'm trying to sort of say what maybe he didn't want to say. So I think JP Harbison makes a great point. It's dedicated money for the jail. And I wasn't trying to say that nobody was, we were not respecting the sheriff. I just think that he fought hard for those positions, and we ought to let him have the discretion to use them if he needs them. So I'll stop talking. Thanks.
All right, we final comment, JP Ecke.
Thank you, Judge. Point of clarification, the money will remain in the sheriff's unappropriated reserves. It will not go to county general unappropriated reserves, correct?
Correct. It'll remain in the jail.
Excuse me. So it will stay in jail, available for Sheriff Helder to use. It will not be at the discretion of the Quorum Court because it is not in the general fund, correct?
That's correct. It can only be used for the jail.
So Sheriff Helder continues to have discretion and authority over those funds and over the Quorum Court.
No, if it's back in unappropriated reserve, it's not been appropriated, which is what the Quorum Court does. It would have to be reappropriated should it be needed there or elsewise. For the jail, it would have to be reappropriated by the Quorum Court.
So these funds will then go back to county general, not stay in the in the sheriff's.
No, those are two different funds. Because of the quarter-cent sales tax, there's a dedicated revenue stream from that quarter-cent sales tax. Any money, let's say that the projection is $5 million and the Quorum Court only appropriates $4.5 million, there's still $500,000 left in unappropriated reserves in the jail fund. Should something come up in the jail and there's a need for some of that money, the ask can be made to the Quorum Court, who can then take money out of that fund just for the jail, or if it's in excess of that amount, they could ask for all that that's left over in the jail fund, then dip into county general.
So what is going back into county general right now? Nothing, correct?
None of this, that's correct.
Okay, let's go. Any public comments? Any public comments? Seeing none, Ms. Patty, will you take the roll?
Suki Hires,
Yes.
Sue Madison,
No.
Willie Leming, Willie Leming,
No, no.
Ann Harbison, Ann Harbison,
Trying to unmute.
No.
Yes, Ann.
no. Butch Pond,
No.
Lance Johnson,
Yes.
Susan Cunningham,
Yes.
Derek Thomas. Was that, yeah.
Say that again.
No.
Oh.
Judith Yanez,
Yes.
Patrick Deakins,
Yes.
Lisa Ecke,
Yes.
Sam Duncan,
Yes.
Shawndra Washington,
No.
Eva Madison,
No.
Andrea Jenkins.
Yes.
To go into a second reading.
Next month. So it did not get,
It did not get
Did not
enough to
get-
pass as an appropriation ordinance on one reading, so we'll move on to a second
to
reading.
September's reading. With that, we'll move on to item 16, which was the added on, that was JP, was that Deakins? Council, would you read that one by title only?
Yes, this is an ordinance ratifying a conditional use permit recommended for approval by the Planning and Zoning Board, and this is for the PBGH Springdale Highway 412 Dollar General.
JP Deakins?
Thank you, Judge Wood. I said I had to add this to the agenda. We expected maybe an appeal to the CUP process. That appeal did not come through. There are some concerns about the large-scale development proportion of this project, but until then, it's appropriate to move forward with the CUP. And so I would make a motion to suspend the rules and read this to the second reading.
There's a motion to move to a second reading, a second by J.P. Pond. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Those opposed?
No.
All right, we'll go ahead and move to a second reading. Council, will you read that second?
An ordinance ratifying a conditional use permit recommended for approval by the Planning and Zoning Board for the Highway 412 general.
I make a motion, we suspend the rules and move this to third reading.
There's a motion to move to a third reading, third and final, and a second by, was that J.P. Leming? All in favor?
Aye.
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 Those opposed? All right, council, will you read that for the third and final?
An ordinance ratifying a conditional use permit recommended for approval by the Planning and Zoning Board for the Highway 412 Dollar General.
J.P. Deakins, motion.
Like move to pass this ordinance.
We have a motion to pass the conditional use permit, a second by J.P. Leming. Any other discussion? J.P. Hires?
I just wanted to bring up a point that I read in the Planning Commission documents that members of the public, and I was trying to vote no on moving this to a second and third reading, but I was muted, so I was not able to vote. But some members of the public were not able to get into the planning committee meeting about this because there was an inactive URL. So I'm concerned that we're not giving community members the opportunity to weigh in if they were not able to get into the planning commission meeting, and we are pushing this through so quickly. Thank you.
Thank you, J.P. Hires. Any other discussion? J.P. Madison, Sue Madison.
You need to be unmuted.
Yeah.
Hear you.
Okay. I'm a little worried that we may be coloring this issue. My understanding was there's still a large-scale development that needs to be approved before this can proceed. So I wonder.
Now, typically the large scale happens after the conditional use has to be approved before large scale can proceed. There's a pre-large scale that can be approved by the planning board, but technically you have to have the CUP is the first step in order to really then move on to large scale development.
And then that has to be passed by the planning board.
Correct.
So you're right, J.P. Madison, you're right.
Has to go to the planning board, but the
Correct.
CUP has to pass first. It just worries me that we're coloring that. And I certainly am sympathetic to J.P. Hires' concern that the public is perhaps not getting the ample opportunity to weigh in on this. Thank you.
Any other discussion? Let's go to the public comments then. All right.
I'm not seeing any public comments.
Without any public comments, Ms. Patty?
Suki Hires,
No.
Sue Madison,
No.
Willie Leming,
Yes. Yes.
Ann Harbison,
Yes.
Butch Pond,
Yes.
Lance Johnson,
Yes.
Susan Cunningham,
Yes.
Derek Thomas,
Yes.
Judith Yanez,
No.
Patrick Deakins,
Yes.
Lisa Ecke,
Yes.
Sam Duncan,
Yes.
Shawndra Washington,
No.
Eva Madison,
No.
Andrea Jenkins,
No.
I have 9, so it does.
There's no third and final reading. Nine in favor, so the
All right.
ordinance passes.
We'll move on to then, that ordinance passes, item 13, or 17, which was the added ordinance number 20059. That would be J.P. Willie Leming and Andrea Jenkins. Either one?
Andrea, can you read that, what you've got?
Well, council, go ahead and read it by title only.
I don't have a copy of it.
This is an ordinance calling for a referendum election on the sale of liquor by the drink in Prairie Grove, Arkansas. This was something, just so that y'all know, because I know that the JPs may not know, this is something Prairie Grove has been working on for a while to get this, and they decided to wait to pass it, to put it on the general ballot, because they didn't, there were some hiccups in the beginning to put it on a special ballot. So this week, I believe, the Prairie Grove City Council passed their resolution to get this on the ballot. Arkansas law then requires the Quorum Court to pass an ordinance asking the Election Commission to then place it on the ballot. And so that's kind of up to the Quorum Court, but that's the request from Prairie Grove, is that this be placed on the ballot for people to drink. I will point out that the one specific thing on it is that this would only affect the wet areas of Prairie Grove. Apparently there's some dry areas of Prairie Grove where the sale of liquor by the drink at a restaurant will still be prohibited.
You need a motion to move that on?
Yes.
Yes, this requires 3 readings.
Okay.
So is that what you're suspending the rules, or what's your motion?
Yeah, let's suspend the rules.
All right, so we have a motion to suspend the rules, move to a second reading.
Second.
A second by JP Jenkins. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? All right, council, reread that for a second time.
An ordinance calling for a referendum election on the sale of liquor by the drink in Prairie Grove, Arkansas.
Move to suspend the rules and put this on third and final reading.
Second.
We have a motion by JP Pine, a second by JP Jenkins. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? All right, council, read that for a third and final.
An ordinance calling for a referendum election on the sale of liquor by the drink in Prairie Grove, Arkansas.
Make a motion, we pass this.
We have a motion to pass and a second by JP Jenkins. Any other discussion? Any other discussion? Let's go to public comments. Any public comments? All right. Ms. Patty?
Suki Hires,
Yes.
Sue Madison,
Yes.
Willie Leming,
Yes, I can go have a drink now.
Ann Harbison,
Yes.
Butch Pond,
Yes.
Lance Johnson,
Yes.
Susan Cunningham,
Yes.
Derek Thomas,
Yes.
Judith Yanez,
Yes.
Patrick Deakins,
Yes.
Lisa Ecke,
Yes.
Sam Duncan,
Yes.
Shawndra Washington,
Yes.
Eva Madison,
Yes.
Andrea Jenkins.
Yep.
Judge, this ordinance passes.
Okay, that ordinance passes. We have committee reports. Let's go with county services. We had no meeting. Finance and budget, Ms. JP Harbison.
We met and acted on all the ordinances that we passed, and we had one that was tabled. And we had our normal reports from the treasurer, the controller, and our insurance report. That's it.
All right, Jeff, say it again. JP Harbison, say it again. I'm sorry, I missed that last part. No, I thought you said something. I'm sorry. Thank you very much. We had no jails meeting. Again, we said next month that they will be looking to have the National Center of the State Courts to be there to present, and we had no personnel. I entertain a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. The Washington County meeting is adjourned. Thank you.
Yanez, Judith, JP Yanez.